Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Zamora two-player podcast. This is my sub-series I'm going to be calling Sidequesting. Keen viewers of the podcast might notice something a little different this time. I am not joined by my brother this week, joined by my brother. In fact, I'm actually joined by the wonderfully talented Tara Catallo, otherwise known as TeraCMusic. That you guys may have seen her works on YouTube and stuff. Tara, welcome and thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really glad to be here.
My brother and I have been we're doing kind of a two-part episode right now. We talked a lot about just our memories growing up with games and stuff like that. And we're doing like a two-part episode just talking about game music because we both obsess over it and we have a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
Especially early days before YouTube, like downloading random covers of songs from Napster and all all those
Oh
crazy
my
things.
gosh.
Yeah, it goes back quite a ways, our obsession. So because we were on that topic, I reached out to you because you are a video game cover artist that I have listened to for I think like 7 years or 8 years on YouTube or something. Like, it's been a
Wow.
while.
That's a
um,
long time. Yeah.
it's been a while, yeah. And I so on your channel, I think I could see as far back as like 2013 ish that you were publishing video game covers, or am I missing a gap there?
There are older ones. A lot of
Okay,
them might be privated
sure.
because it's like potato quality and like, me not
Sure.
being proud of how that stuff sounds and, some things
Those
I wanted
early
to remake
works,
later
yeah.
on. Yeah, pretty much. But my channel, I technically started in November of 2009. So
Oh
it's
wow, okay.
been over a decade of doing like covers, mostly video game covers, but I've done some other stuff here and there sprinkled
Sure.
throughout.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I'll talk about I got a couple questions I think lined up for that kind of stuff
okay.
too. So, but I know you mostly from your video game covers, primarily vocals, strings, and piano. I've seen you do tons of collaborations with other artists, and you've also done live performances at cons, which stresses me out to no end. I can't even imagine. You've done performance streams on Twitch where people
Mhm.
request some of your music to play, myself included. I found myself in there a lot when our 4 hour time difference,
Oh
was
my gosh,
doable
yeah.
for me. And you've even done some teaching music theory on Twitch.
Yeah, so I did Theory Thursdays on Twitch, but I also uploaded them on YouTube. Like sometimes like the
Right.
highlights are just the full stream.
Yep.
So yeah, those
Those
were a
were
lot of fun.
those were good for me because you usually start around like 10:30 p.m. my time when you were doing them. So I could only catch about 45 minutes before I was wiped and ready for bed. So I actually did use your VODs a lot just to go back and kind of you know catch the whole lesson kind of thing. And
Yeah, yeah.
I am not a musician by any means, but I just enjoy the discussion of it and, and just learning more about it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I always found those were very fun.
Well, I'm also just a huge nerd in general, so
Sure, yeah.
like just being able to teach other people or just like having other people interested in that kind of stuff really like makes me feel good and like I just feel like I get to nerd out about it and things like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's fun. Especially when it's something that you're so comfortable and, you have I mean, how long have you been playing instruments? Like how old were you when you started?
Well, I think I started piano first when I was like 7-ish.
Okay.
And then I did violin when I think it was when I was 9. I was in 4th grade.
Oh wow.
Um, so I kind of stopped piano and like just kind of focused on violin. Um, and then yeah, kind of things just went from there, like learning
Sure.
viola, in the later years and like still playing piano here and there, just kind of teaching myself and being able to play. I just like maybe intermediate stuff. on piano. I'm not like the best player for piano,
Sure.
but yeah, piano was my very first instrument, and I do think that helped me a lot. Like already knowing how to read music, like both
Mm.
treble and bass clef, helped me a lot with violin. Already knowing like the whole steps, half steps, like all that stuff. Like I feel like piano and guitar are the two really great starter instruments that helps translate really well to other instruments.
Oh,
So.
okay. Yeah, I guess
uh,
there would be skills that that would translate well. That makes sense.
mhm.
So yeah, you've been doing it for a while. Yeah.
Yes,
So
I
you're I
have.
feel like you'd be pretty confident at teaching that stuff, especially the dummies
Yeah.
like me.
Oh,
Um,
please. Anyone
uh,
can learn.
for sure, yeah. So since my brother and I were talking a lot about our favorite, I was telling him like the first time that like game music really like grabbed me and kind of made me realize like, oh, like this can add so much to a game experience for me was Final Fantasy VI, and it was like the
Mhm.
opera scene in that game just like blew my mind that that whole story sequence was based around music and how much it added. So I would love to start and just what's one of your earliest like memories of like falling in love with music from a game?
Ooh. Yeah, see, like for me, I love the Final Fantasy music, but like I didn't actually really play the games when I was younger.
Sure.
So if I think back when I was little, I mean, I guess Pokemon
Okay.
and like the Harvest Moon series.
Mm.
Some of the music, like it wasn't always that good, but there were a few good tracks
Oh yeah, there's
in
some gems
Harvest
in
Moon.
there. And
Mm-hmm.
I find Harvest Moon just like is like perfect complement to its atmosphere of what the game is,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah, the different seasons and having the different music for each season. Animal
right.
Crossing's another good one that I
Hmm.
liked the music a lot for.
And it's like it doesn't have to be an impressively written song just like
No.
technically, but it's like you said,
Hmm.
it's just it fits the vibe
Yeah.
of that game and it just enhances that sort of gaming like experience or whatever.
Yeah, like
Uh
makes you feel like you're actually in winter when you're,
right. Yeah,
you're hearing the winter music. So.
yeah, it's funny how our brains will kind of make that connection.
Mhm.
Um, so kind of along those lines, going back to like earlier sort of memories and stuff. What was the if you can remember, what was the first song that you learned to play from a game? Not necessarily like published or recorded for YouTube or something, but
Okay.
what's the earliest memory you have of like, oh, I want to try and play this if it was from a game?
Oh
Or did
man.
that kind of come later after you played music for other, other reasons?
I feel like it came later. I've honestly mostly focused on like the classical style just because like that's how we're trained as violinists is like we're just
Okay.
classically trained, so we have to, I kind of focused on that a lot. It was probably high school, like about the time that I started the YouTube channel. I think I was trying to learn like Sadness and Sorrow, which is not even a video game, but is from Naruto.
Okay. That
And
name
then
rings a bell, yeah.
yeah, and then there was probably a couple other, maybe some Pokemon tracks, but it's not like completely distinct. Like, oh yeah, this is the first one I tried to play on the
Sure.
violin. For me, it just kind of was like, okay, like I'm not gonna. Well, at the time, I wasn't planning on doing music for college, and I still wanted to keep up my skills, and that's kind of why I started the YouTube channel.
Okay.
But I wanted to play what I liked, what I actually enjoyed playing and enjoyed listening to, which was mostly video game music. So.
Mhm.
Um, that's kind of when I started getting a bit more serious about like learning all these different video game tracks and the melodies to them and things like that. So yeah, good questions. I actually haven't really been asked these questions before, so this is good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the reason that one came to me is that, like I said, I'm not a musician. We always had a piano in our house growing up because I think my mom had, she took lessons or whatever, and she played a little bit when she was younger and stuff.
Mhm.
But a friend of mine taught me how to play the Mushroom Kingdom song from Mario RPG on the piano, and I couldn't read music, so he would just show me every week like the next part, and I would just like remember the keys and trying to memorize it or whatever.
Heck yeah.
And that was like my earliest like it was just so fun. Like, oh, the music's there, but I'm doing it over here. Like, it's just this weird sensation that I had. But so yeah, I was just curious where it started. But it feels like it's you know kind of mercurial. Like you're playing music all the time, and then like, oh well, let me just play some of like you said, like some of the music you like hearing
Yeah.
more or whatever. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and what's so cool about music is like you don't technically have to read sheet music. Like you don't have to know how to do that to play and learn. You know, like
Right.
that's also really cool to me is that in a sense there's really nothing hindering people from learning. Like because you can still, especially on the piano or guitar, like you can try to learn it by ear. You know, that's what I decided to kind of rely on, especially back then when there weren't too many sheet music just floating
Sure.
around on the internet of video game tracks. Like I had to
Yeah.
listen to it and then kind of play along on the violin and or on the piano and figure out like what the melody is, what notes they are, and things like that. So, yeah, knowing how to play by ear is also like a really, really great skill to have. And like, yeah, again, you don't need to know how to read sheet music to play music, which is I think is really cool.
Well,
So
and especially with like in your covers, I feel like you do a lot of like sort of like improvisations like on an existing melody, and I feel like you need to have a good ear to know like, oh, this will sound good with the thing that I'm already hearing or whatever. So yeah, I can see
yeah.
how you would have developed that skill if that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I feel like when I was starting out my YouTube, a lot of it was just by ear. Now I try to actually write out
Hmm.
the little improvisations or like the stylistic changes that I make, just to like make sure that it actually is cohesive and that it makes
Sure.
sense. But when I'm figuring out some of the improvisations, like I am kind of just noodling around and like using my ear to like be like, okay, that sequence of notes doesn't really sound that great. Let's change it up a little.
Right.
So it's kind of like a mixture of like both of those skills, like
Cool.
learning, like knowing how to play by ear and also using the sheet music and kind of doing it that way.
That's just so impressive to me. I have no musical ability.
Thank
If
you.
people do that, it's just like magic. I don't understand, but you've done it, for years and years and years. That yeah, it just becomes that second nature to you almost.
Yeah.
So this might be a dumb question because as a non-musician, this might be obvious, but when it comes to making a cover, what generally would come first? Whether it's like you hear a song and you're like, "Ooh, I'd like to do some version of that song," or do you have like an urge, like, "Man, I really want to do like a vocal cover," and then you find like you go and look for a song that fits that genre better, or is it might be a mixture of both? What do you feel like is more often the case?
Good question. I feel like it's a mixture, but I will say most of the time it's music that I hear like in the game or, like sometimes I'll just go on YouTube, like if I don't care being spoiled by
Sure,
whatever, happens in the game.
sure.
I'll just go on YouTube, listen to the playlist of or like the full score and then pick out things that I'm like, "Ooh, like this definitely like has me written all over it." And then I
Okay.
like add it to my own playlist of things like possible covers.
So you
Um
can hear one that sort of like fits your like kind of your brand that you think you could do
Yeah,
a
like when
spin
I feel
on.
like it's kind of like my style, or I feel like when I'm listening to it, I'm already imagining enhancements that I would make,
Cool.
or like things that I would add to it to like just have it sound even more lush, or something
Sure.
like that. So like solo piano stuff, for example, like some of the stuff from like I Am Setsuna.
Mhm.
I haven't really played the game much, but I listened to the soundtrack and it's mostly piano solo, right? And so um some of the covers I've done is like adding in strings, full strings, and like,
Sure.
the violin carrying the melody and still having the piano in there, but kind of arranging it differently like that. But I have had some times where I just like, okay, I want something fast. I want a vocal track.
Sure.
Like, let's just find something. So
Just got that itch.
yeah, sometimes it'll have lyrics like the what is it? The Kaine
Oh
Salvation
my god.
one.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want like an easier track to just sing because it's less work for me
Sure.
in terms of recording
I
layers
suppose
upon
you just gotta
layers.
learn the song. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like sometimes I'll just enlist a collaborator to make it even faster and be like, hey, here's the piano part that I did. Like if you want to
Sure.
make changes, go for it, but record this. And then usually the turnaround's really fast, and so that allows me to get it out faster. But yeah, it's kind of a mixture, but most of the time I would say it's like me listening to the track either in game or like on YouTube and being like, okay, this
It
has
just
to be written
catches
all
your
over it.
ear.
Like I have to, yeah. Like
Yeah.
if it evokes an emotional response,
Yeah.
that's usually a sign that like I'm gonna cover it. So,
Cool.
um, yeah,
It's
that's
yeah,
pretty much it.
it's neat to know where that trigger happens.
Hmm.
What kind of conversion would you say is easier or harder if we're talking like from like one genre to like a different type, if you like kind of switch genres, or something like instrumental to vocals or vice versa? Do you find, what would you find to be like easier or harder to do, or does it kind of depend on the song?
Yeah, I guess it kind of depend. I feel like for genre stuff, like for the most part, I try to keep it similar to the original genre and then just kind of add that like electronic flair to it or whatnot.
Okay.
Sometimes that can be difficult, especially if the original I feel already is very like sufficient on its own and like doesn't really need anything extra
Sure.
added to it, like a different genre. Like I feel like maybe that might ruin the mood or
Sure.
the like
Yeah.
emotion. Um, but yeah, instrumental vocals, I mean, in general, I think that's like those aren't too difficult to do. It's just usually like this is like my go-to. If there's a flute playing,
Okay.
it's gonna just translate to my voice and I cover it.
Okay.
Like
Sure.
it's just like
That's a
there's just
pretty
some
easy
instruments
conversion.
that
Yeah,
you're
that makes
like,
sense.
yeah, it's just like, okay, this would sound good here. Like cello lines, like sometimes I'll, if it's not too low, I'll just put it to the viola.
Okay.
And like things like that. So there are some instruments that I just know, like, okay, I can't play the flute, so let me just sing it instead, kind of
Sure.
thing. But yeah, I've had some difficulties with that too. Like I'm actually doing a cover of A Tragic Decision from
Okay.
Xenoblade Chronicles.
Oh my
Um,
god. I love Xenoblade music so much.
yeah, it's a something to
Okay.
arrange as
Little
someone
sneak
who
peek.
who is just a string player
Hmm.
mostly, right? Like I can't really play electric guitar, can't play the electric bass. Yeah, I
Sure.
don't know how to do drum set. Like, and that's what like the main focus of A Tragic Decision is like based on those things, right?
Right.
Um, and like sure, there's violin in there as well, which is like why I want to do it, and
Yep.
just because the track is so good. Um, but like that, honestly, I'm having the hardest time like finishing the arrangement of that because I'm like, I don't even ever arrange for these instruments. Like, like what do
Yeah,
I do?
true.
So, and it's not even changing the genre much or anything like that. It's just in general, like getting used to writing for those instruments that I'm not used to writing for.
Right.
That's like the biggest struggle for me. It's like if I don't know how to do it and haven't had practice, then it's gonna take me a while.
Yeah,
So,
because I'm sure there's like nuance to like arranging the like all the like different types of instruments together and getting it to sound
hmm
good. So yeah, I guess it's
and
just a practice makes perfect kind of thing, I suppose.
yeah,
Yeah.
and for something that's that how do I say it? It's like complex with all the different instruments that there are in
Right.
that track. Like it's hard for me to make sure I'm arranging each one properly because it's hard
Sure.
to hear all of the instruments in there and what each individual instrument is doing. So
Right.
that's the other struggle. Is like if there's too many instruments, I'm like, like what
Just
do I
trying to
focus
break it
on?
down. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like stem by stem, piece by piece, trying to figure out like what each part, like what each instrument is playing. That's like what I struggle with most when it's super
Okay.
involved in
Wow.
terms of the original. So
Well, I am very much looking forward to whenever that song is done because
yeah,
I
we'll get there
love
at some
me some
point.
Xenoblade music.
Heck yeah.
So besides that one,
Mhm.
what would you say? What is the cover you can think of that gave you the most trouble, whether it was like writing
Ooh,
it or recording it?
ooh, ooh,
If
ooh.
Which
Yeah,
one would come to mind?
let me just go to my YouTube studio real quick. Because it's been a while since I made a cover.
Oh yeah, you've been busy.
Yeah, with the job and stuff.
Yep.
The most difficult to arrange slash record. Um, let me scroll a little bit because these are things I didn't really think about. Which is
I'm
good. These are
sorry, I'm
very good
surprising
questions.
you with some questions.
No, that's good. I mean, so there are a couple of tracks, couple of covers that I had done. It's not like they were difficult to do, but the arrangement when I started it was like years ago. And
Oh,
so
okay.
it like took me like literal like years to actually
Okay.
finish the arrangement. One of them is actually the Listen to the Cries of the Planet cover.
Oh,
That one I
okay.
started
And
like
that's pretty
years
recent.
ago. Yeah, I started that like probably 2017, 2018,
Wow.
something like that. And like I knew in
That
my
was
head
last
what I
year, right?
wanted to do.
Was it last year
uh
you came that one came
it
out?
was 2021 October. So it
Oh,
was
I
for
guess
Halloween of
that's right.
2021.
We're technically 2023 now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
so like
thinking
a little over a
2023.
year ago. Yeah.
Right.
Um
I
but
remember
yeah.
seeing your blooper of you trying to get the fall like down to your knees or whatever. That was that
Yeah.
song, right? That you did that
Yes,
little
yeah.
bit. And I just was watching those the other day, and I just like laughed at like, yeah, that would be so annoying to like get the timing right and everything.
Yeah, having the floodlights like turn red as soon as my knees hit the ground,
And I
like,
saw you
oh my
trying to like
gosh.
hide the little button
Yeah.
like when you dropped or whatever.
The remote, what
Yeah.
was it? I think it was this
The
remote I was
little
trying to
clicker,
hide.
yeah. That's pretty funny.
But yeah, like that stuff, like there have been a few. So it's Listen to the Cries of the Planet, definitely, and I think Shala's Theme was the other one that I know right off the top of my head. Those ones, the arrangement started a long time ago, and then I like over time, as I got better at recording and mixing and arranging, then I felt like not like I was worthy enough, but like I felt like, okay, like I
Like do
have the
it
tools that
justice
I
kind of
need,
thing.
yeah, to do it justice. And so that's kind of how some of those turn out. And it doesn't happen very often, thankfully, but there are a few where it's like, okay, I need to hold on this for a bit
Sure.
until like I feel like I can actually do it justice and do a good job.
Yeah, you don't want to force
And
it, I guess, if it doesn't feel like it's coming together.
no, like back then, I think for Shotless Theme, I didn't really know how to do pitch correction that well.
I don't even know
Um,
what that is.
so it's like autotune
Oh, okay,
kind
sure,
of
sure.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you do the do 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 do, right?
Right.
That I pitch corrected because I wanted it to sound very precise, right? As if an instrument was playing, not like my voice.
Gotcha.
And back then when I was trying to do it, I like the pitch correct, like I wasn't doing a good job of doing it and it just sounded really bad. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. Like the idea is great, but like I have to be able to execute it properly.
Right.
Um, so then when I learned more about pitch correction and got more comfortable with it and stuff like that, that's when I was able to kind of implement that, and some other arrangement ideas kind of came to head like at that same time. So uh, yeah, sorry, very long-winded answer, but
No,
basically
that's
nothing's
fascinating.
been super like difficult. Like some melodies might be difficult for me to play and I have to practice them.
Hmm.
But for the most part, for me, it's just like some of them just take a long time to actually finish.
Sure.
So
I mean, yeah, I always respect how much work I know is going into these that I don't understand because I'm not in that world, but I
yeah.
always respect how much. And for what it's worth, so uh I wrote down some of your covers that like at the end I might have if I had specific questions about those if we had time. And
Mm.
number one, it was a fool's errand because I was like, oh, well, I think this one's my favorite, but I like this one too. But I like this one too, and I was kept writing. And Shala's theme was the top. Like that is probably my favorite
Mm.
of your
Oh, I'm so
covers.
glad that you like that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So for all that struggle, you got at least one person that is their favorite song. So
Yay.
whatever comfort that that brings you.
Yeah, no, still very proud of that arrangement for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be. That's the one I sent my brother when I told him that I was going to be having you on the podcast because we both love Chrono Trigger as well. So I was like, okay, I know I'll get him with this one. Like, I'll get his attention with this song or whatever. So
Heck yeah.
yeah,
Mitsuda is just so good.
yeah, excellent. Was it the Mitsuda Lick? Is that what that thing was called? I remember you taught that on. It's not in that song, but
no. Yeah, that's correct. It's not in that song, but there is something people are just kind of naming it the Mitsuda Lick. I think it was
was it the forest?
Yeah, it's in like the forest. I forget the name of it, but yeah, it's still in Chrono Trigger, but in a different track, in the forest track. Da, 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 like that thing is the lick.
Yeah.
The Mitsuda Lick is what people are calling
and I remember
it,
so. I kept messaging you on Discord, like, is this one? Is this one? And you're like, no, not quite. I was like, oh, I'll get it one day.
Almost.
Yeah. That was one of your Theory Thursday lessons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. So I mentioned earlier, you've done a lot of performances and stuff at like live at different cons and things like that. Was there a process to finding a song that would translate well to a live performance? Because I know a lot of it is you doing like multiple vocal parts, instruments and stuff like that. So what was the process of like finding when, like, okay, I could do this as a single human being on stage?
Oh gosh, yeah. Let me tell you, when I love the arrangements I do, but when I had to create a set list for, like, I don't know, I feel like for doing my performance streams and like any kind of online performance, like for VGM Con I did, and like bonus stage, Ongaku, stuff like that. Like they seem to, for the most part, they're okay. But for MagFest, when I performed there last year, I had some difficulties trying to figure out like what I could even do that would translate well, because I had basically, they wanted me at first to do 2 mics, like 1 mic for vocals, 1 mic for violin, and I was like, that might be too, like, like going from here and then like grabbing my violin, playing it in the other mic, like it just was going to be too much. So I tried to find simpler things that were like mostly one instrument or the other.
Okay.
So like I did oh my god, Edge of Dawn, which is just vocals, right? I did that with Ro. I did Don't Forget with Diwa SPG, which was also like just vocals. I think I did actually include violin in there too, but I tried to make it as like easy for myself as possible.
Sure.
And picked things with like really strong like solo melodies.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah, I have the list here, the set list still. So yeah, Cosmo Canyon is just violin.
Yep.
Kaine Salvation was just vocals. Empty Town was just violin. Garfont was just violin. So yeah, I tried to stick to that, and there were a couple scattered throughout where I had to do both.
Okay.
But it definitely had an impact on like what I was actually gonna put in the set list, because a lot of it's just, if it's all layers, it's like, okay, what do I play? Like I want something to stick out. So something with a very discernible melody that preferably just one instrument had at a time.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I decided to go for like MagFest for sure.
That makes sense, being one person.
Yeah, exactly.
Having all that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's really cool. And when was the last con you did? It was recent, right? You did a performance sort of recently? Time is weird. I don't remember. I feel like it was a couple months ago. Was it before? I don't remember.
I don't
Maybe
think
I'm
I haven't
misremembering.
performed at a convention since MagFest that I remember.
Okay.
But I've been to other conventions.
Maybe that's what I'm crossing wires. Yeah, I know you've been to one more recently.
I did panels at this MagFest.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
I was part of 2 panels for that, but no actual like official performances per se.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed performing live, and that's like last year's MagFest was my first time performing live, like in person, in front of an actual audience that like knows me as TeraCMusic type
Sure,
thing.
yeah.
Um, so that was a really great experience, and I definitely want to do it again. It just kind of depends on like if and when I can do that again.
Yeah, and I mean that's a
But
lot of prep you got to do and stuff too. So the
yeah.
stars have to align a little bit, I suppose, for it to happen. But at
Oh
least
yeah.
you were definitely playing to a captive audience because I'm sure everyone there knew all of the songs you were playing, intimately, right? So, yeah, that must have been to
It
me
was
for me to think
amazing.
of it. It stresses me out, but obviously as a performer, you feed off of that energy more than I would.
Well, yeah. I mean, I performed at the Belvedere too, right? And
Okay,
so
yeah,
um I'm not sure if like like that venue, but it's basically open to the entirety of the like convention and like hotel. So people who have balconies looking out into that, like they can literally just come out to the balcony and like listen
oh
to
wow.
you playing. It's a very huge venue, so also the like the reverb, the echo
Mm-hmm.
was insane.
Okay.
So that was kind of actually something I had to um, figure out, and I sort of struggled with a little bit when I performed, just because I was literally hearing myself from like 3 4 seconds ago in my ears
Right.
because of the reverb, the tail. Like it lasted so long, so it was such a big space. So like I was
Oof.
trying to sing something, but I was still hearing my voice from a few seconds ago, you know? So like that was a little I had
Man,
to figure that out a bit.
kind of on the spot too.
Yeah, a little. But in general, it was a really, really great venue. I think that works really well for the type of music I make and like arrangements
Sure.
that I do. Like I don't need to be on main stage. Like I feel like just me on main stage would be really, really weird. Like I
Unless
would
you had a
need a bunch of
band.
other people. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Then it would be different. But if it's just me, like I'd have to play backtracks and like that just doesn't really translate well to main stage stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, in general, it was really, really cool experience. I'm really glad that they like let me do that.
Hmm.
And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to do something like that again.
Cool. I will gladly. I'm like Eastern Canada, so I probably won't make my way down there to see these in person, but I will gladly watch whatever videos you post from them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about you've done some original songs, and I know even done some like commissions for games. I think it was like the
Hmm.
Lord of the Rings online like wedding song or
Yep.
something. I don't remember the name of the track necessarily, but tell me how what that process felt like. Like how stressed was that, or how stressed did that make you to know it
Uh,
was going into a game?
well, I was just really excited,
Okay.
because it was my first time getting a video game gig and
Okay.
like doing session recording for a video game.
The Lord of the
And
Rings
Lord of the
one.
Rings, like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like feel like my first video game credit, is Lord of the Rings online, like dude. Um, but in general, like that whole process was really, really nice. The composer, Bill, he it's actually in my Discord.
Oh
But
wow.
he was like super, super nice, and I tried my best to like tell him like, oh, for this violin part, like this might be better to do this instead, and as well for the vocal melody. So I actually recorded 4 tracks for that update.
Okay.
Um, 2 were voice, and then 2 were violin. And so for the vocal one, the one that I think most people have heard, it's literally just called The Great Wedding.
Okay.
Um, and that one, he had a vocal line that was kind of high for at least for a melody that had lyrics. And so I basically recorded like the higher part and like a lower part and like had him decide. And I was like, yeah, like typically you don't want to go above this note. Like I was
Sure.
just trying to share my expertise, and he was very receptive to it, which is great.
Wow.
Um, so in general, like I wasn't really super stressed out about it.
Well, it sounds like it
Um,
was more like collaborative in a sense, and less like
yes.
play this. you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like Bill is great. Like it was so so much fun like working with him, and I
Cool.
really did have a great time and felt like, what I was saying like was actually being taken to heart and
Mm.
things like that. But it's really funny because he found me and gave me this gig through some really impromptu charity stream that I just decided to show up to, and like spent like I basically stayed for like 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and then dipped out. And he saw me on that day on that stream, and he was like, "Who is this person? Like, she's new." And then he checked me out, and then fast forward a couple months later is when he's like, "Oh, I've got this video game gig. Like, I would love to do live violin and vocals
Wow.
for it." Like that, the fact that that happened just because I decided to show up to this one
Yeah.
charity event,
And
like
was
it's
it,
so
did you
crazy.
go to like perform? Like, was it like, were you performing at the
Yeah.
event kind of thing?
So, do you know Zeldathon? You've heard of
Oh,
Zeldathon,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, some people from Zeldathon were helping run that other charity event. It's like a Mario Coliseum thing.
Okay.
And it was at the time, it was close to where I was in like in Vegas area.
Okay.
And so someone messaged me and was just like, "Hey, like we're doing this thing if you want to stop in for a bit, and like maybe play some violin." So I brought my violin with me. I played some music for a little bit and then basically peaced out. So it
Wow.
was
And then
very,
months later, you're recording a track for Lord of the Rings Online.
yeah, because Bill found me through that stream. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really, really interesting how that turned out. But yeah, in general, like doing session work, of all the ones that I've done for like video games, I don't think I've really been super stressed.
Okay.
Um, it's just like you get to kind of know who the composer, like who that person is, and you get to just learn a lot about the industry and things like that. And yeah, some people you'll definitely work with again. Some people you might shy away from a little bit, kind of
Right.
thing. But in general, like they all gave me sheet music, from what I can remember,
Mm-hmm.
or they gave me something to work with, so I can like make not better sheet music, but like
Sure.
I need a key signature. So if
Right.
I have to put in a key
You have your
signature and make some
process.
changes, yeah, I have to, it just makes it easier for me as a string player to read. So yeah, at least they gave me something to work with. So I can kind of do that and make it easier for me to sight read. But yeah, in general, like love doing recordings for video games. It's a lot of fun, and I like
Yeah.
knowing that like I'm contributing to a video game in some sense.
And
So
it's nice that full circle where, like, you liked video game music when you're young, started playing some songs, and now you're making songs that someone
yeah,
else
I want
might
to
try to
give
learn.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like that's so cool. And like I do quality assurance now for a
Mm-hmm.
video game. For a video game company, it's local here. And so it's kind of cool to even delve deeper into that and like contribute even more
True.
to
Yeah.
the video
That's a
game
good
in
point.
that aspect. Because when you're a session musician, yeah, most of the time it's like, okay, here's the backtrack, here's your parts, here's the MIDI, like record and send it back. Um, and so you're like, okay, you do that, and they're like, okay, great, sounds good, thank you. And
Yeah.
like you don't really get much involvement
Sure.
in the video game itself. And so that's what I really love about my QA job is like I get to test
Yeah,
all
you're
aspects
way
of the
deep in
game. Like
there.
I'm
Yeah.
way in there, yeah. And it's really cool because my company really values feedback.
Good.
And that's something that I definitely take seriously as well.
Yep.
And so like I definitely really appreciate like my company and like my job because I do feel like I'm actually making a difference there, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
great. So
I've I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, and myself included, we've all worked at jobs where they do not seem to care about what you have to say or what your opinion is, and then
yep,
now working in a job where that is no longer the case, that makes all the difference. So yeah, I feel you on that one.
absolutely.
So I remember a little while back there was some I you'll have to fill me on the details because I can't quite remember. There was some like music competition or something that you were a part of, wherein Nobu Omatsu himself mentioned your name or the piece of work you did. Um, First of all, just fill in the details on that a little bit because I don't quite remember everything. But
Sure.
also, how did that feel to hear Uematsu say your name? Because that must have been amazing.
Yeah. So what happened was they had this little contest for the Theat Rhythm Final Fantasy game.
Okay, yeah.
that had I don't know when it released, maybe 2013 or something
Sure.
like
It was
that. I'm
back on
not
like
sure
the
exactly when.
3DS or something, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a while back, but yeah, they had that contest. They had Mr. Uematsu actually judging and watching all the entries and
Hmm.
deciding the winner and runner-ups and things like that. And so in the announcement video, that's when Mr. Uematsu mentioned, I think they had like honorable mention a little bit, couple names here and there, and then he listed off the names of third place, second place, and first place. Um, and so me and a few others in the YouTube community actually got third place.
Hmm.
And so that's why he had like mentioned my name.
Yep.
I think Moises Haloriku, who's the pianist, I've worked with him a few times.
Okay.
He, I think, also got third place,
Okay.
which is kind of cool. I think Joanna also got third place. But anyway, yeah, so he mentioned my name, and I literally took that video. I think I downloaded it and then clipped that part where he says my name, and like I have it saved in my hard drive forever.
Uh, you had it posted somewhere at some point because
Yeah,
I remember
on
watching
YouTube.
that clip. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I have it on YouTube too, where I
Yeah.
like called
Save
him
that
senpai and
forever.
stuff.
Yeah.
So cringe. But yeah,
I
I was so honored that like he
I can
listened to my
imagine
entry and actually chose me for third place, like him personally choosing, you know. So
choosing
yeah,
your work. Yeah.
super, super honored.
The closest I've ever gotten was I went to a Distant Worlds concert
Mm.
and he waved at me from
Oh,
like the balcony. I was waving and he's like, ah, like he like
oh,
pointed
that's
away.
so cool.
That's the closest I've got to meeting him.
Man, I wish he was at the Distant Worlds concert that I went to. It was in my hometown in Rochester, New York.
Okay.
He didn't show up for that one because it's like it's a small freaking town. Like, why
Sure,
would he show
yeah.
up there?
Yeah,
But
one
I wish
year
he had.
the first year I'd ever gone, he was there, and then the year after he wasn't there, but I'm gonna blank on the name, but he was the composer for Final Fantasy 11. He was there. And he was actually sitting right in front of my cousin and I.
Oh wow,
Yeah, so that was really
I don't
cool.
remember the
I
name either. I
I
probably should know the
I
name
should as
though.
well. I played so much Final Fantasy 11, but I'm blanking on the name, and I don't want to guess it wrong.
Mm,
But yeah, so he was at one of them, but I went the year after, and he wasn't there. He's a busy guy, I guess.
yeah.
We'll give him a break. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um. So can you give a peek behind the curtain at the process of writing, recording, and editing multiple parts of like a cover? When you're doing, to me, it's fascinating because I struggle to make this podcast, and I'm basically just cutting the end and the beginning off and slapping it in a video editor. But when you're doing like, 10 different tracks plus, however many instrumental, like, can just give us a little peek behind the curtain of like what kind of chaos is that?
What kind of chaos? I love it. Sure. Give me 1 second. What I will say is usually I do audio first,
Okay.
just because it's easier to know that like the melody and layers and things like that I've recorded are gonna work well, and things like that.
Right.
If I record audio and video simultaneously, that could run into some problems if I want to change something later. I don't like commitment, apparently.
Sure.
In that sense, at least. I
At
like
least in
to
the
be able to
musical
change
sense,
things if I
yeah.
want to. Yeah. So yeah, I usually my process, honestly, in terms of making the audio, it's kind of transcribing the music first. So I try to make it kind of one to one.
Okay.
So I'll listen to the original. I try to type or like click in the MIDI note for note of what I'm hearing. And then from there, usually for like the repeat, because most of the game music loops, right?
Right.
So whenever we start the loop, that's when I start changing things and I start to add my own flair into it. And I feel
Right.
like that kind of template has worked pretty well. Um, so let me actually see if it'll let me load. Hold on. I'm going to change something real quick
Sure.
because knowing me, if I do this, it might kind of cut out my audio and stuff. Might be a
Sure.
little weird. So let me do this one. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yep, and I can hear you fine.
Okay.
So we're gonna take a bit for it
Sure.
to load in. But yeah, I kind of do that just because it's a lot easier to transcribe something right off the bat than figure out how I'm gonna change it and arrange it, you know?
Okay.
Um and then I'll make sheet music
Okay.
for like piano, the violin. Voice, I tend not to. I feel like I work faster just listening to the MIDI and recording the voice like along to like the MIDI and VST.
Okay.
But pretty much everything else I do sheet music for. So then I print out the sheet music, put it on my music stand, get to the recording, try to figure out how many takes I want to do.
Okay.
If it's something I want to do layers for, I have to decide, okay, do I just want 2 takes? Do I want 4 takes? Do I want 8 takes? I've done that before to make it
Okay.
really lush sounding.
So
And
by
like
takes, you
almost
mean
like a
like how
full.
many layers of your voice, essentially?
Yeah, so like especially for strings, like sometimes for one viola line,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do like 4, like record it 4 times.
Oh, wow.
Or like record a lot of times and then cut it and trim it down, to 4 full takes
Right.
per part. And so what I do with that is then I'll start to like pan it different ways. So like some viola parts will be like more in like the left ear and some will be in
Gotcha.
the right ear,
Yep.
kind of thing, to make it sound like a full orchestra the best I can when it's just me, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what I end up doing, figuring that out, and then recording. Then what we call comping is basically just cutting all the little pieces. Like, oh, I did like a sour note here. Let's cut that out. And then in
Okay.
another recorded take I did where that note is not sour, I'll trim around it and like insert it and
Oh,
make sure
wow.
that it still sounds kind of seamless.
Right.
Which once this loads,
That's fine.
I'll be able to kind of show you like how much comping I do, which
Right.
is kind of a lot.
I'm
But
oblivious to all of this, so this is
yeah.
fascinating, honestly. This is wild to me.
It's a lot of production
Right.
knowledge and skills, which I've definitely gotten better at over the years. Being very nitpicky. I do use pitch correction more often now just because it saves me time. If I can just
Okay.
pitch correct it instead of trying to find a take that has it playing perfectly,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I'll do that. And like for me, it's like I can definitely play this stuff in tune. Like it's not like, oh, I'm not skillful enough to do it, so I have to pitch correct. It's kind of like, no, this is literally just to like save time.
Yeah, for sure.
And to just make it sound a little bit cleaner.
Yep.
But yeah, it's getting there.
I
So
can,
I'm
if
gonna
you want me to
show
go to
you.
the next question while it loads, or is it like
Yeah,
almost done?
you can go to the next question. I'm not sure how long it's gonna. Maybe. Hold on.
Sure.
It's like almost there.
Okay.
It loaded.
Okay.
Let me see if I can share my screen. I think it worked. I'm not getting any errors, which is good.
And I still see and hear you.
Okay, well that's good.
So nothing
Okay,
fell
share my
apart.
screen. Let's do the actual screen. We'll do that. So this is my Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Land of Moritha
Okay.
cover arrangement.
Another great one.
Yeah, so here, if you see any of these, this is like MIDI. So
Okay, yeah.
typically things that I'll click in, or if it says like recording, I actually recorded it on the piano, but what I do is I connect it like MIDI USB, and so I can connect the piano to the computer. I can play it on the piano, but then when it records these notes. And then I can kind of go in and like adjust the volume later on. If I like hit this note too loud,
Right.
then I can like raise it or lower it, kind of thing. Which I like because anything that means I don't have to record with the actual microphone and have other
Right.
outside noise come in, right?
Yeah.
Um,
That apartment
so
life, right?
yes, exactly. Even in my house, like there's always, like my parents'
Yeah,
place.
there's ambient sounds, yeah.
Yeah. Are you able to hear this?
I do not hear that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can. I might have to do the application instead. I want to make sure you can hear it.
Oh, I guess, yeah, if it's just screen share, it probably wouldn't give me the audio. Yep, I hear it now.
Cool. All right. So, yeah, this is just a little bell pad thing that I had. Very similar to the original. So yeah, we can kind of go into here because you'll be able to see my recordings.
Right.
So violin solos here. Then I've got these other backing strings here. So I did 2 takes each. 2 for viola 2, 2 for viola 1, 2 for violin 2, 2 for violin 1. So I have a total of 8 string tracks backing the violin solo.
Right.
And then you can kind of see where I've cut here and there. Like,
oh yeah, okay.
Here's a cut, there's a cut. So this is like where like this take might have been a little bit better than the other one. And so I kind of have to go through all the takes I do and figure out the best combination of the audio so that it still sounds pretty seamless.
Yeah, now that you tell me how many violin backings there are, it's like I can hear that a lot more now, just knowing how many layers there are.
Oh yeah,
that's
yep.
crazy.
And I even have, and now that I'm seeing it, see how some of this is lighter color than the others.
Yep.
So the ones that are kind of grayed out, I've muted. The ones that are down here, that are in green,
right?
I don't have an instrument that can play this low.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I have the strings here, but then I have the VST, like the virtual instrument, like kind of like a cello sound, also playing, but you can't really tell it's VST because I have all these live recordings that kind of supplement it and make it sound like an actual cello's playing. That's another little trick that I do sometimes. So same for here. Oh, that's got some overruns. That's probably gonna do that. Might not be able to do this. Hold on. I got some vocals in here too.
Sure.
Let's see if this is any better. Yeah, okay, so that's just the strings, but then if I add this.
Wow, so much more like rich sounding.
Ugh, it kind of did overrun again. But yeah, like having that, even though it's just like you can tell that it's not at least I can tell it's not an actual cello.
For sure,
yeah. But
especially hearing it isolated.
Yeah, like adding these things in helps boost this and make it sound real. So that's kind of like what I did for that. So there's a lot of things. I mean, you can tell I did a lot of vocals at the end, different takes here, the strings cut out. So it really depends on the track and like how involved I want to get. What's nice about, I'm not sure if you're able to see this little window here. I have a window up right now.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
It tells me how much time I've spent. So it says 19 and a half hours.
I thought you were pointing to some. I don't see a window in front of this program, if that's what you're referring to.
I see. So let me...
Probably because it's just capturing the application, I guess.
Yeah. What I like about FL Studio...
I can see it now,
I like, is that I have this, and it actually tracks how much time you spend.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And this project was started on, I guess, October 14th of 2018. Which that tracks because I released it for Halloween that year.
Okay.
But yeah, it took me almost like close-ish to 20 hours to make this whole thing.
Jeez.
So imagine that's just the audio.
Right. Yeah, that's not even recording the video parts. Jeez.
Yeah. So the video, I used to go ham and just be like, okay, how many violin takes do I have? Okay, I have 2 violin 1, 2 violin 2. We're going to film 2 violin 1 and 2 violin 2. Like now I'm like, can't be bothered. Like I'll just do one video per like actual part, right?
Gotcha.
again, to save time, make it easier, don't have to do as much video editing.
Yep.
But the video editing could take another, back then, maybe 15, 20 hours.
Okay.
Nowadays, it's been a while, but I would say maybe closer to 10, maybe
Okay.
less than 10 hours. But I've also been doing like simpler stuff.
Sure.
So,
Well, and you've learned how to do it more efficiently too, I'm sure, over the years.
yes. Yeah, for sure. And people don't really care how many videos you have on the screen. So sometimes I just do cuts like from one, like I'll do the violin solo and then I'll cut to the vocal or I'll cut to the piano and
Right.
like just show that on the screen. And that's so much easier to edit.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I kind of do like a hybrid now. Like sometimes I'll show multiple videos on the screen and then sometimes I'll just showcase like one instrument at a time. But yeah, so like if I were doing this full time still, like it would take me a good 40 plus hours to make these covers every single week. And that's why I couldn't do it every single week because I get burnt out. You know, ear fatigue with listening and trying to mix everything. Plus, yeah, staying up late trying to do the video editing. So it's a lot of things. It's very involved, and people kind of take it for granted, like that don't really understand the process and know how like intense it can be.
And like I knew it was a lot of work, but seeing it is like it still blows my mind how much work it is, even though I have that expectation that I know that bar is already very high. It still blows my mind to see all the stuff that's involved. That's insane. Yeah. Thanks for showing me that. That again, I'm oblivious to this stuff.
And waiting for that.
No, not
Sorry
at all.
it took so long.
No problem at all. That's fascinating to me. So yeah, all that to highlight, I just the amount of work that goes in that is staggering. And like I said, I struggled to edit this podcast together, which is like amateur hour. So I'm impressed.
You'll get there. Thank you. It's again like over a decade of doing this.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it shows. What is the most, this to me is also boggles my mind, but what is the most challenging aspect of with regards to singing a cover that's in another language?
Ooh.
So there's things you referred to the Kaine Salvation earlier, which to me is even more insane because it's not even a real language. But then also like Radical Dreamers. I might get this pronunciation wrong, but Suteki Dane from Final Fantasy X.
Yes,
That was my number 2 on my list behind Charles.
Oh wow, that's an old cover. Wow.
I think that might have been the first one I found of yours.
Oh, okay.
And then I don't remember now. It was that or you did a Zelda medley, I think. It was one of those two that were the early ones I found. But anyway.
Yeah, okay.
But like having those two in like Japanese lyrics and then kind of in some made up language that doesn't even exist.
Right.
Yeah, what's that like? What's the most challenging aspect of doing that?
Well, I'll talk about Kaine.
Sure.
And like just any near vocal track in general. Because it is like a chaos, like made up language type thing.
The Song of the Ancients as well. Yeah, that one's a really good one.
I did Song of the Ancients Devola.
That's so good.
Yeah. So what I tried to do is find the lyrics of some regard online, checked it with the original recording.
Okay.
Find discrepancies, fix the discrepancies, and change the words to what I think I'm hearing.
Sure.
Right.
So you mean literally like find the lyrics, listen to it, and like follow along, kind of thing.
Yeah, because like what I sing, like my own lyrics, if you will, is not the same as like what the wiki has.
Right.
So let me see if I can find. I'm not sure if it's got the lyrics somewhere. Actually,
that's another series that my brother and I obsess over the music is Nier. We love the music in that.
Yeah, it's so good. I haven't even played the games, but like I know.
Oh, really?
Because
then you do have a good ear, like you said, for like listening to a soundtrack of a game you never played and picking out the like very impactful songs that everyone obsesses over. You have a good ear for finding those because.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kaine and the Song of the Ancients are like the two one of the two best songs in that whole series.
Yeah. So if I look at like genius.com, they've got like a Kaine Salvation lyrics. Most of it is what I did, but the verse 2, the da na 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 na
Hmm.
na na, like that part,
Yep.
little bit different. They have hyo mi genda ya kakren no he kaine rakara, but it's like really nitpicky, but I did hyo mi genda, not mi genda, and
Okay.
ya kokren, not ya kakren. Because I
Wow,
was
you can
hearing
hear
an
that much of a
O.
like that subtle of a
Yeah.
difference.
I would listen, like scrub back and forth and back and forth, being like, is that an A? Is that an O? What is she singing? Right? So I would change it to be like, this is what I'm hearing. I could be wrong, but I
Yeah.
want it to be as close, like phonetically, to what the singer's, like what I think the singer's singing,
Right.
versus just going off of some random website lyrics. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I try to do my due diligence, try to do my homework, and like
Yeah.
make sure it sounds accurate, as
Sure.
accurate as I can. But Song of the Ancients also had kind of like a similar thing where
Yeah.
the lyrics on the websites were like not quite what I was hearing, so I
Sure.
switched some things around. The Japanese tracks are different because again, it's an actual language.
Right.
So those I would just look up the lyrics. I would still check it to make sure.
Sure.
Some of the pronunciation things in Japanese are different than how like English speakers would pronounce
Right.
it. Like fu is not really an F sound. It's more like a H, like a
Yep.
fu sound. So like those things you kind of hear in the song. And like I had my friend Julia Henderson help me as well because she's very good at at like
Sure.
the lyrical side and like different languages. So things like that. Like I think my time in Korea,
Right.
living there and learning the language, like that has also helped me immensely in singing Japanese because they are not the same, but they are pretty similar in like how they pronounce things. So if
And
I
I
just
would
kind of have
imagine
my
that is more similar to the way Japanese sort of flows than English is to Japanese.
Oh,
So it's a
absolutely,
closer, yeah.
yes, much closer correlation.
Yeah.
So I just kind of make sure I have my Korean hat on in a sense when I'm like
Sure.
reading the romanization, because I can't actually read the Japanese.
Right.
But yeah, so that I think helps me.
Okay.
And I honestly feel like I sing better in different language
Oh, really?
than I do in English. Like I feel like it sounds better when I sing in a different language. So I enjoy doing like Radical Dreamers and like Suteki Dane and the other tracks that I've done in
Mhm.
Japanese, or in a different language. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's not my native language. It just appeals to me better.
Sure. I would have thought it'd be harder because it's harder to memorize if you're just learning it like phonetically versus like knowing what the song is about kind of thing.
That's
So
true.
that's cool
That's
that it's cool that it's less challenging and more like rewarding. It sounds like at least.
Yeah. I mean, you still try to figure out what the meaning is for the lines if they're actual words and
Right. Yeah, if it's a language that exists.
Yeah. So that does help. But yeah, I think it's just because like Japanese in general, it's simpler.
Sure.
In terms of ah is like always ah, is always like same thing in
Right.
Korean.
Right.
So like if you read it, that's always gonna say that. So you're always gonna pronounce it the same way each time. Pretty
You don't
much.
have to look at 5 words around that word to know what that one sound is, like in English sometimes.
Exactly. Like read versus read. It's spelled the same way.
Yeah.
You have to figure out the
Yeah.
context kind
Yeah.
of thing. So that I think helps too. But I mean, I obviously enjoy singing in English as well. I just think my voice sounds better in when I sing in other languages, but it could just
Sure.
be me. Who knows?
I mean, what 3 of my top 5 are non-English singers, I guess, or not English lyrics, I guess. So maybe you're onto something.
yeah, maybe.
So speaking of Radical Dreamers, you did a album. Was that last year? Or was like
It
it was like the end of
2021.
2021, right?
Yeah,
Crossing Worlds, if I'm getting that right.
Mhm.
Yeah, there it is. There you go.
I don't know if it's flipped or if it's
It's right on my screen.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
there we go. Good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I released this in August of 2021.
Hmm.
Um, 11 tracks on the physical CDs, like on Bandcamp, 10 tracks everywhere else. Yeah, I don't know what came over me. I basically revamped a cover of The Girl Who Stole the Stars because I
Hmm.
had done a cover way back on my channel. And I just wanted to kind of breathe new life into it.
Yeah.
And after I finished that, I was like, you know what? I kind of want to go and listen to the rest of the Chrono Cross soundtrack.
And
And
that's like
then,
it's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna make 10 songs, or it's like you did collaborations with them all. You did like videos for, was there a video for every song?
not everyone, but most of
But
them.
there
There's a
were
couple on
multiple
here
videos.
that don't have video components.
Yeah.
I technically, Life a Distant Promise, the cellist did send me videos for. So if I wanted to do a cover, like a video for it later on, I could. Um,
Well, even
but
in
yes.
the videos you did do, some like they were like, there's you on a beach, like it's not just like
Oh
you
yeah.
and, you know what I mean, like not you just you in the basement recording these parts. It was like,
I
it feels like a
I
big production.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to make it a bit better than just like a usual thing. So I did go to and pay for a studio, like a
Okay.
rental for like filming.
Okay.
So I filmed the main vocal part of Radical Dreamers there, where they had the really cool like clock tower thing in the background.
Right.
It was just like
Yeah, yeah.
it was just a clock
That's,
like
yeah,
face,
gorgeous
and it was
shot. Yeah.
really really cool. I was like, dude, this is
And
perfect
very
for
on
Radical
theme for
Dreamers. And
Chrono Cross.
yeah, exactly. So I knew I had to like record that, like record Radical Dreamers there. And then I used the same studio for some recordings of Departed Souls, I
Okay.
believe. Yeah. So that studio was used for those two tracks. I did obviously do more recordings after the fact in like my parents' place at the time.
Right.
Scars of Time, yeah, I decided to I was in Oceanside with my boyfriend, and we're like, might as well just film Scars of Time there.
Yeah.
So we did that. We actually had we had filmed Flowers Blooming in the church
Okay.
earlier that day at the flower field in Carlsbad.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and so like they're not too far away,
Sure.
Oceanside and Carlsbad. And so we had, honestly, that I'm getting sidetracked, but
I love
that
it.
filming experience in the morning for Flowers Blooming was not great.
No.
But at least Scars of Time was a lot more chill and a
Sure.
lot better. So yeah, we did that because I was like, I just want it's gonna be the first video I release for this album. Like I want it to have a bit of a bigger production.
Yeah. It definitely felt like a bigger deal because of all the
Yeah.
production value. At least as just a fan, you know, that's how I felt. Like it felt like a pretty big deal for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. I'm glad that came across. Like, I knew it wasn't gonna be like some 5K budget or
Right.
10K budget music video, right?
Right.
But I definitely wanted it to be outside as much as
Yeah.
possible. So where was it? The Goldove I also did outside, but that was in my parents' like backyard.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, I mean, it was still nice. It was like during the golden hour,
Sure.
you know, with the sun and everything.
Yep.
So that was pretty. But yeah, it was. I tried to put as much, you know, effort and love and care into the album as I could. Trying to do a full album in like 9 months was crazy.
Yeah.
That's why I needed these collaborators so
Yeah,
much.
for sure.
They needed to help me finish it on time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super, super proud. I'm glad that I was
You
able to
should
get
be
this
for
out.
sure.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely something I can cross off my list and be like, I
Awesome.
did this. So
And the timing of the release makes sense actually that you say that, because I might have, I feel like I told you this when this happened, but I was interviewing for my current position where I was like, I'm a team lead now at my job, and I was waiting to find out if I got the job. I think it was like the
Yeah.
day that your album came out.
Wow.
So I was just like all day at work, I'm just gonna listen to this so I'm not stressing about. I feel like I might have sent you a message about that, but I can't remember if I can't
You
remember if I
might
did.
have.
It was, I
You
mean, that
might
was
have.
2 years ago or whatever,
Right.
almost. So yeah, we don't have good memories, but that makes sense because it's like I started the position I'm in now September of that year, so it
Oh
was like the
yeah.
last week of August that I was like waiting to find out or
Was
whatever.
it the
So
25th? I think I released August
that would
25th.
probably line up then. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
because
think that
I
was the release date.
luckily in my job I'm able to just listen to Spotify all day at work.
That's nice.
So for that, you know, release in particular, that was like my zen for the day. And whenever I find myself having like a stressful week or whatever, I got a whole playlist of your stuff that I was like, all right, it's time
Aw.
for TeraMusic today because I got a lot of work to do. So, but yeah, that makes sense with the timing of that cover because that definitely helped me relieve the stress of, of waiting to find out.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad.
Cool. So one last question for you
Sure.
before I let you go. Uh, at the end of the day, what song or cover would you say you're most proud of? Whether it's how it came together, how you know added a flourish to it, or you know in any respect or any aspect, what would you say is your most proud?
You know, it's kind of funny because when I'm thinking back, most of the ones that come to mind have been my Halloween ones. Um,
Your
and
Calcabrina one is fantastic.
yeah, see, like that one, I just took it to a next level. I can't
Yeah.
even license it because I added lyrics to it, and that makes it like a derivative work. And
Ah,
so I
okay.
can't actually license it the normal way.
Right.
But like I was super proud of myself for like coming up with those lyrics and like
Yeah.
making it still sound super like scary and things like that, and doing the child voice and things
Yeah.
like that. But for I guess, of course, I really love Land of Mortha. I love what I did with that one.
So good.
But I think I have to go with Listen to the Cries of the Planet. As
Sure.
of right now, the one I'm most proud of, just because I really took that hybrid genre. Like I went there, you know,
Well,
making it sound super electronic.
well, that and I remember you. I'm gonna if I'm on the spot, I'm gonna forget. But you worked in another melody into that song. Oh, I have to listen to it again. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like Sephiroth's theme or something.
Oh, it was a One Winged Angel.
Okay, it was okay.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I added the lyrics of One Winged Angel,
that's
but
what
I
it
did
was.
a
Yeah, it was
different melody to it.
right.
So, um, yeah, it was, I don't know. It was
No, it was
still kind
great.
of,
It like caught me so off guard because I know that like Final Fantasy VII is one of the soundtracks that my brother and I obsess over the most because that's like one of our favorite games of all time. And so it's like I know that song like perfectly just from memory, and then that comes in, it's like whoa, like Sephiroth, stay away, like don't you stay out of here.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
again, the melody was completely different, so I didn't
yeah,
know how it'd be received because everyone's gonna be like "Estwans interius ira
yeah,
vehementi," right? But mine was a completely different melody using the same lyrics,
yeah.
just to kind of have it fit better
So
with
good.
"Listen to the Cries."
Very
Um,
creative use of it for sure.
yeah, again, really, really like I do really like how that turned out. And then the instrumentation at the end with like the synth, like the piano that I
Mm-hmm.
recorded, and then like having it double with the vocals, and then when the vocals cut out, I did the violin as a soli, like going back and forth between the two
Right.
kind of thing. Like I'm still super proud of how that turned out too.
Awesome.
And I actually used that as an example for the panel I did at MagFest,
Okay.
which is the genre bending slash blending in VGM.
Okay.
So I used that cover as an example because I'm like, this is like a perfect way to like, here's the original. This is what it sounds like.
Right.
This is what I did.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that one's probably my top for now. Shala is pretty close too. I am still really proud of that one, but
Sure.
as of right now, like Listen to the Cries like takes the cake for me in terms of like what I'm most proud of.
Awesome. Yeah, that
Mhm.
I mean anyone that loves Final Fantasy music knows that song. So, yeah,
I hope so,
definitely worth a
yeah.
listen. Yeah, you should. It has a very strong emotional impact that song. On my
Absolutely.
the last episode when I was talking to my brother, just funny that you literally quoted the lyrics of One Winged Angel. One of the things I did, and I don't know why, I had no reason to do this, but I had printed off the lyrics, the Latin lyrics of One Winged Angel, and I would just read them every night before I went to bed. I don't know what purpose that had, but that's just how much I loved that music in that game. So it's just when you
Wow.
quoted it, I was like, I know exactly what these lyrics are. 'Cause
Good.
I,
Yeah, see, it's all for the people who are like hardcore fans who can
yeah,
recognize that. You know,
yeah,
like that's what I do it for. I do it for those people.
yeah,
And for myself too, because I'm like, I
yeah.
actually was able to like pull this off. Oh my god.
Yeah, it must. Yeah, it feels good at the end. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, that's all the questions I have, Tara. You did mention you're working because I was going to ask you what are you working on now, and it sounds like that Xenoblade cover is the one sort of in the works at the moment. Anything else that you want to
Yeah,
shout out?
that a couple other covers. I'm still slowly working on my own RPG and RPG Maker
Oh yeah,
and trying to do the scoring and sound design and just game design, whatever you want to
sure.
call it, for that. So I did get recordings from a guitarist for a night version of Frostlin.
Okay.
So that'll be kind of fun. I'm super
Yeah.
excited to like work on that and get some recordings in. Like my first time, it'll be my first time recording in this new apartment.
Right.
So we'll see how the acoustics are and everything.
Sure.
But so again, we're working on that.
Okay.
I will also drop that Gabe, I did mention on Twitter, he also recorded a guitar for me, and that's going to be for Elysium in the Dream. So
Oh my
you have
goodness.
that one
Okay.
to look forward to as well.
Oh man, I'm not ready for that. That's gonna be so
Oh
good.
man. I was like so close to crying last night when I heard him, like heard the guitar part and with my arrangement with like the MIDI, right? The VST virtual stuff. I
Yeah.
was still like almost about to cry because it sounds so beautiful. And like I haven't even actually recorded all the like any of the live stuff yet.
Yeah.
Just his guitar and like virtual instruments. So super,
Amazing.
super excited for how it's gonna sound when I get real recordings in there.
Right.
But yeah, I guess those two look out for at
Are
some point.
you excited for or terrified of the fact that Octopath Traveler 2 is coming out? Because you have done really good covers of Octopath 1, and are you going to be tempted to listen to that soundtrack and squeeze
Oh,
more work
probably.
out of it?
Probably. I mean, I do want to play it. So I am curious. I did play the demo of Triangle Strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually get the full game and didn't
Sure.
play it. I know the music is good in Triangle Strategy though.
Yep.
So like, yeah, I'll probably get Octopath, or if I don't get it, then I'll at least listen to the OST and see if there's stuff that I want to cover. Again, as long as it's licensable, like it's fair game.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Well, because Quiet Forest Home and
mm-hmm.
uh, was it Frostlands? What's that one called? Oh my god. No, the
Okay, so
Town
what else
Veiled
did
in
I
White,
do?
is that what it's called?
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
one I did.
Those are, I love those covers. I mean, I just love those tracks in general. And I believe it's the same composer for Octopath too. So I was curious if knowing there was going to be good music that you'd want to cover stresses you out or makes you excited because you
Oh,
already have so much
it
on your
makes me
plate.
very excited.
Okay.
Is Nishiki doing
I believe so.
two?
I think
Maybe I'm thinking of a different thing that maybe I thought Nishiki was doing a Triangle Strategy and he didn't.
Oh, you could be right.
But
But
let
I'm
me
pretty sure
see.
he's doing Octopath.
Good.
Yeah.
That's what we want to hear because that music, man, he
Oh,
just came out of nowhere and it was just
and that
what?
was, yeah, was one of my favorite soundtracks in recent years when that game hit. That was insane. I still listen to that
Oh
soundtrack
yeah.
constantly at work.
Oh, I listen to it every so often too because it's just like it's really freaking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it does say that he's returning as a composer for two. So yeah, I'll have to now, like
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm sorry if I added more work to your plate.
No, it's fine. I'll cover at least one track.
Sure,
Probably
yeah.
more.
Sorry,
But
not sorry then, because I can't wait
yeah,
to
I
hear
pretty
it.
much
Selfish request.
yeah.
Cool. Well, if you want to let people know where they can find you, I know you're on YouTube and Spotify, but anything else you want to plug, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like you said, I'm on YouTube, TeraCMusic, Spotify, TeraCMusic. If you are interested in my compositions, like originals, you can search Terra Catalo on Spotify and such. But I try to link both like artist names for the originals. I have a Twitter, TeraCMusic, Instagram, TeraCMusic. Like it's all TeraCMusic handle. So pretty much you can find me on any of those. Feel free to take a listen and or maybe purchase this album. It's great. It's
Absolutely
on
do.
Bandcamp. I
Yes.
still got physicals left. If you want a signed copy, I'll sign it and send it to you. Like, more than happy to do that.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you're a fan of Mitsuda, I would definitely check this out. It's
For
good stuff.
sure. And I'll put
Um,
any links in the description so anyone
yeah,
listening can find you no problem.
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tara. Seriously, this
Yeah.
was like the first person on my list I wanted to interview, when, especially when talking about music. So truly appreciate you taking the time.
Oh yeah, no, thank you for having me. I honestly I wish more people would let me be in interviews and stuff because I love talking. If you guys can't
Amazing.
tell, but yeah,
Great.
thank you again.
Thank you. And everyone watching, thank you. Well, my brother and I will be back with our next episode in probably a week or two. So I'm happy to slot this in right in between to give some people some really interesting, behind the scenes look at some of the work you do, Tara. So thanks again.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Bye
All
everyone.
right. Bye.